here as you implement.
Proposed.
Well, can we go and order that list?
Yes.
Awesome.
Where's the list? I don't even think different things will get table. I also thing and I go Rachel Warner, Adolfo, Autumn, Roxana, Tori. No. You want to see normally stand up so we can make it a little faster. Rachel, Adolfo, Autumn. Roxana, Tori. Next one. Yes, sir. Is this being recorded? Will that be available publicly later?
It is recorded. Typically, that's what we do.
Did you say there's a YouTube, will be a YouTube video?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, so you don't get to hear me sing. Rachel?
Hi, my name is Rachel Warner, and I work at two of the oldest bars in San José, Caravan Lounge, which has been open for over 60 years, and also Southern Bamboo in Japantown. I have some concern. I was fortunate enough to attend a meeting of small business in San Jose. I was the only employee of law firm, I'm not gonna lie. But of the four main stressors for owner operators, one of the main stressors was employees, and the subset of that was parking. Because for these owner operators who have these lower paying minimum wage jobs, such as like barista or whatever, the person that they're hiring not only has to consider what they're going to be making, but how much they have to pay for parking downtown. And they might as well get a job where they're making the same amount and they're not having to pay for parking. This will disproportionately, it's already affecting people that work downtown during the day. This will disproportionately affect working class people that work at night. The option to park maybe 1 or 2 or 3 blocks away from your business and walk back to your car at 2 o'clock in the morning, especially the advent of these 18 and up places downtown. Violence has increased. There's been a bunch of crazier streets happening. And it's just not safe to be walking downtown that far away to your car if you're trying to avoid like paying right next to your business. You did address the parking meter what did you call it? Where the glitch. So we have a downtown group chat because we keep us safe, right? So if like an underage member tries to get into one spot, we let everybody know, right? So yesterday, our chat blew up, and there was at least 5 locations where the rates have been increased, and like you said, it was a glitch or whatever. But I do have that conversation printed up if you would like to see the areas where the parking was increased. So, and then lastly, from what I see, there's a $65 million deficit, and in 5 years, this would add $4 million to make up for that deficit. Is that correct? It seems to me that nickel and diming the working class to make your budget is not the way to go about it, especially with the amount of money. So, thank you very much.
Have any of you specifically who created this plan been out on the downtown night Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't think parking is the main concern when we consider, in my opinion, our sport. The goal should be bringing people out to support our art and cultural organizations and businesses so they can remain open later and continue. As someone who lives, works, and plays within a 5-mile downtown radius, I don't that increase in parking meter fees will add to a more vibrant downtown that the city claims want to support. Many small businesses and organizations rely on folks parking in metered spots to view their exhibitions, buy a sandwich, get a quick coffee, and implementing such a high fee becomes a non-starter in an economy where leaving the house a little challenge with fuel costs, is an economy where leaving the house is a challenge with fuel costs, food costs, and living costs. In addition, allocating this increase towards the general fund rather than public transportation, transit-oriented housing, or alternative transit options doesn't show any benefit to users opting out of the car. If the goal is to turn over parking spaces, we should be proposing solutions and not penalties. If the goal is to use garage, when will the next garage rate increase? Let alone there are folks practically living in our garages. As a woman, as a human being, I don't feel safe going in there, let alone is it sanitary. The first 390 minutes is already a dynamic option that changes over a matter of years, after 5 years. This parking proposal doesn't show any benefit to downtown or its cultural community that relies on visiting to support their programs, let alone the people working here to make sure that these programs and exhibits and events are available. So do you really want the only thing that folks who spend their hard-earned money to come downtown to talk about is how expensive the meters? Please not increase the meter fees at times. Please consider supporting a vibrant downtown that people actually want to visit.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be short of the intro, okay? So my name is Don Juan, representing Mescal. One of the hardest things is when you're hiring the team, when you're hiring employees, is safety. What is the waste they're getting in parking? And the same thing goes for people who are coming, especially in the nighttime for dining and entertaining. We communicate that after 6 o'clock, they can pretty much park anywhere. Moving from 6 to 9 will not help a downtown. And when you say about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know how late some of you guys are in downtown, but there's nobody in downtown. Now, we adding another heat to the small business to increase the parking, that will be a major problem. And then the other part is, I know we talk about the glitch because somebody was very upset yesterday. We had a meeting, they communicate to us some information, we pass it to the rest, and 10 minutes later, we start getting employees saying it's already $4, it's not only tonight, but it's 10 p.m. So thank you for looking into that, but that's hard for us to come back to our teams and say, they're working on, is not active, is not approved. So that's where we are right now. Communication, I think, is the key. I know that some of it's going to be increasing, but I think we need to do this slowly. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Autumn. I'm a downtown resident living near City. Question about the implementation schedule and just the thought process, how we came to those decisions. So I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah.
You need to make your statement or ask.
I do.
Well,
The implementation schedule, if you just talk about the thought process behind figures.
When the board, that's something.
Well, I think that, my name is Roxana. I'm a law student, going to Santa Clara. I have been a lifelong community resident. And my concern, as boards as well, is how the implementation plan, was enacted. I think it's concerning that the first thing, is not indeed the increase the event, but actually targeting the people who need to park at downtown the most. I really echo the concerns of previous speakers. I think it's concerning that that's the first thing, that we're taking from people who already can't make ends meet, who live at home, like many youth do. And I just think, like, to leave the house to make money, I make no money, it's lost. And it's hard to park. To park near the library yesterday cost me $25. That's not a normal thing for someone to do, who wants to better themselves, who wants to get a better education. And I think that to beautify San Jose, you should enjoy San Jose. And I don't think anyone's doing that. Thank you. Yeah. Hello, my name is Eva. I live, work, and play in D.C. And I am the assistant director at LAFA, which is and I, like everyone that you've heard today, I'm disappointed to hear that in this increase, I'm disappointed that the entirety of the $1.2 million ask from the city comes at an increase to local residents, as opposed to a mix of other budget cuts and revenue increases. Why it all has to go to local state residents, which is my perspective. Everybody in the group. As the board said, parking is critical to downtown life. These increases will drive revenue away from downtown. And I can't honestly imagine somebody walking out from, well, we have on our performances just to read later. That would be incredibly disruptive to like the community building that we do, to the artists that we serve.
And that 6 to 9 just does not really make sense. These increases again are gonna drive people away from our downtown and spend their money elsewhere. You'll be parking and like wherever folks just to have dinner or view performances or go to galleries. So again, I urge you to reconsider this.
Or Cash, Savoyo, Benjamin, Arla, Jay.
Boss is watching the live stream at home and she said it's been turned off. Is the live stream not streaming?
It is, I see participant.
I'm ready on cash, the order of haberdasher, cash only, we're opening bid up one day. Before I start, I got everything written down, so I'll not to go too long, but I just want to come to a few agreements and I'm going to easily agree on. Small businesses success in downtown, it's a pretty high priority of all of us, right? Anyone disagree with that? And we all need jobs that pay a livable wage in this economy. That's an easy one. We all want a thriving and vibrant downtown, right? I think the thing that you're seeing now with this turnout is that this is exactly like gas prices. There's a through line from parking meter prices to gas prices. Every interaction creates and then it compounds this like bitter, crappy feeling every single time, day after day. So it's something that will leave an impression on every single person that uses a parking meter moving forward forever. Okay? I can't tell you this is owner operating. A lot of us are in downtown every day. We have hundreds of employees that deal with this. So it's always something we talk about. We do know that on the consumer side, the regular dependable customers, they don't show up in downtown whenever there's some kind of happening. During World Cup, it was great, but it was all new faces all the time. All my regulars weren't around because there's no parking, there's too many people, you know, too much hassle and all that. But they're also talking about parking and where do I go? There's no spaces open on the street. This is something that I've talked to, anecdotal, but I've talked to at least 200 of my regular guests in my businesses. There's not a single person like, good idea, right? It's that gas price feeling. So there has to be a way for us to, in a city of innovation or innovators, come up with something that's a little bit more comprehensive, interesting, thoughtful than this. Because all this is can we need to come up with $2 more million and we're just going to figure out doing it the same thing we've always done. Have we not looked into subscription-based revenue streams? Have we not looked at corporate or tech partners? Right now, AI companies are drowning in money, and they don't. And when GTC came through, what they were paying for event fees were ludicrous. We just jacked up the prices to get so many people asking for the same block of time, and they were happy to pay us 50x what we usually make on that day during that time. They have so much money. And because of gas, just like gas prices, there'll be a daily reminder if NVIDIA, who doesn't need it, but if some company that's drowning in money and trying to make a name for themselves, you want to make an impression on how many users a day you have, a month, a year of meters, or make an impression on all these people every single time they touch a meter, it'll pop up saying, this is the company that paid for your parking today.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking $4 million a year. That's nothing to these people. That's a very easy one, but that's, excited about it because it seems like a no-brainer. But have we looked into corporate or tech partnership? Google made a big promise to downtown that they are now reneging on. It can come off a piece of that annually. Why the hell not? These are conversations that I think we need to be having rather than just looking at the same revenue stream with always having stuff hits everyone and cost of money. Couple of quick questions. How much percentage of the general fund to the parking meters contribute annually? Like the answer right now, but I might be you guys to address that one. How much of that money is actually enforcement versus the meters? Right? Like we know that with the IRS, when you cut a bunch of auditors, they end up losing so they lose a lot of revenue because they're not penalized for unpaid taxes. Is there more revenue in ramping up enforcement? I can tell you just on my block alone, if there was someone who just sat there like a sniper with a ticket book, they would make $1,000 a night off delivery drivers parking in the middle of the street, walking out the lane on Santa Clara. Like it literally just stand there. I guarantee an hour you make what you guys make the whole day. Then the 90 minutes free. Do we have data on to prove this is actually appealing? Every time we talk about this with the city, they're always like 90 minutes your employees can get a $50 parking pass. When I present that to my employees, 1 or 2 of them are interested. The rest of them are like, I'm not getting murdered at 3 a.m. I'm not getting my car broken into again. Or I have a 90-pound girl with little shoulders. You want me to go walk in there by myself? We're not gonna let that happen with our staff. They're not allowed to walk alone after we close. You always have to walk in at least pairs. But have we considered the security of these parking garages? I can tell you personally, it's not a thing. I don't feel safe in there, and I'm not a 90-pound girl. Oh, and also the name is free. How many users annually are there? Is it comparable to the meters? We know the meters are a bit more. These are just questions I don't know. Hopefully you guys. Okay. Thank you for letting us understand.
My name is Tomoyo. Because he pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say. But a couple of things. We, as operators, as small business owners, as future operators in business, we are molding within our businesses that are gonna, come one day. These folks, we're at the base of the mountain, and a lot of harm is done to our employees who end up, not really feeling like they're even cutting wage because they have to go out and feed their meter or maybe eat a parking ticket every once in a while. Have you considered that eventually we're not going to release, and we might move elsewhere, where cities are just actually friendly to small businesses rather than just they're friendly to small businesses? Because that's kind of how it feels right now. Eventually, I think that the landlords are going to turn to the city and go, I don't have any tenants, I don't have any options here, and it's going to be even more blighted. Couple solution. I think employee parking and finding a solution for that baked into these eventual increases needs to be a part of the solution, and helping small business employees either have maybe a stipend so that businesses can issue directly to those employees so that we can cover costs without it coming out of our pockets. Safety and lighting. Half of my staff won't use the offering, even though it's a really good deal. And these white buildings, these landlords that aren't really being held accountable. There's several landlords downtown Florida that have really stepped up and filled their spaces and tried to add to vibrancy, but there's others that don't really give a shit. So maybe holding them accountable, I think that you might even find more money there if you are doing the work to focus on that, or pushing the people that have the power to do that, and turning over to them. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Ben, the general manager over at Cash On.
Real quick before you make your comments, this is a public meeting and we are broadcasting live. Ask you to be careful. I know that was careful with your language. Thank you.
Again, my name's Ben. I'm the general manager of Cash On. I just personally want to have a little bit of righteous indignation because where we exist on our street, we're surrounded by kind of 5-block radius, at least 3 different burnt out buildings that have not been operated on or helped at all within the last, 3 or 4 years. And to increase the parking while they're putting tiled stones and making these beautiful little sidewalks and trying to dig a hole, a trench all the way down Santa Clara every single week. This just seems like cart before horse. I mean, it'd be really nice if I could even park there to begin with, but I would also like to not have no parking. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Santiago. I was born and raised in San Jose. I also have a part-time job in downtown San Jose. I'm nervous. First time I'm doing this. But I actually like to express how upset I was at hearing all this through like a text. And so it feels that like we are the ones who are paying for these, and we are always the last people to be. You want to raise the parking from 2 to 4 and extend the parking from until 9 p.m. To form downtown businesses and workers. but why weren't we properly informed before I got this far? I know you put outreach that you did on there, but it kind of seemed like you were just doing that because, you know, we were pretty upset that you guys informed us about it before you took it to city council. I know you have extended it into September. And so it's kind of interesting that you guys did all that and then still, instead of changing a 10 a.m. meeting on Wednesday, still have that instead of, you know, this is your regular meeting. But I feel like because you know, messed up that part, that you probably should have done another time where people can actually come during after work hours, not working. And then I also wanted to ask, okay, how is a restaurant worker supposed to attend a retail worker, small business owner who has to keep their business open? And these are the exact people affected by this decision. You guys, I know it's $4, but it is a lot of money. For somebody who's making minimum wage, that can $4 an hour and it matters. It can be up to $1,000 a year. I understand he has a budget problem, but I want to know why the answer is once again asking ordinary workers, small businesses to pay more. Before you make this decision, I'm asking you to actually listen to people who have to live here and work with you. I also wanted to mention a little bit about other proposal ideas because I know San Jose is the heart of Silicon Valley. We have enormous corporations and some of the most valuable companies in the world operating here and in Santa Clara. I know you probably don't get the business tax right away. I think that's something that we should look into. San Jose's business tax is based largely on employee count and has a cap of roughly $190,000. Meanwhile, Adobe's downtown West Tower has about 1.6 million in annual property tax associated with the property. And Adobe itself reported almost 24 billion in worldwide revenue in 2025. We also have PayPal, the San Jose port headquarters, which is also right in the heart of downtown. And I'm not versus the companies go to tech. They aren't. I know that there's way more stuff going on there, but I think we also just have to kind of look into those big corporations that are on this like area and kind of look into those before you kind of asking us for more money. And I know the downtown community and it's kind of coming back after COVID, and just to do this right after when we're kind of just getting back into it, it's kind of going backwards when we want more people to come into the downtown area. Thank you.
Come back again. We have 5 more after this.
Hello, thank you. This is Jay, also downtown. Gosh, around here. Also, thank you all for showing up. This is awesome. Happens for so someone who works, lives, breathes downtown San Jose. I could afford these hikes. Already made a decision to sell my car and qualify for rent control living to afford to live downtown. Stuff like this inhibit me, fellow students, volunteers, minimum wage employees, and our potential customers from choosing downtown to work, live, let alone spend their money and their time, when the choice would literally just sit back or just stepping outside of the sidewalk. This is not a small increase. Quite significant large hike that for those who can afford to live downtown and must commute, will dissuade a lot of residents and commuters to consider work somewhere else. Offsetting this budget, the proposed budget of in excess of 4 million, just to minimum wage employees, students, volunteers, really puts a cost on us. I think if we look at larger scale of the cost of to is all of us would be still be a detriment. Thank you.
Ivan Gumby, Kyle Miller, Jordan, Juan Carlos, Alexa. That's the last 5. Somebody's on his way. But everybody wanted to know in order, so I do really. Hi, all here. Got me here. I have a couple of issues. Right here. Can you hear me now? A little later. A couple of issues right now. Comment, nothing personal on this. The system is working. Oh, on June 23rd of that city council meeting, you had our vice mayor, Pam Foley, say that the system was backwards. We had Jennifer McGuire said that you dropped the ball. So the system is not working. Secondly, my concern, which I share with you, is that, you know, this general these parking funds are essentially going into the general funds, and there's no guarantee that these are going to go into the people that this actually is going to the folks that serve. We've already seen this apparently. How many years now? 7. Place right here. So there's going to be an effect on the downtown. You know, as far as that, like, you know, I feel particularly jacked as a member of the SOPA district. Whereas we haven't had, I've been asking for the 90-minute parking at the convention center for 10 years. We're finally getting this right now. And the meantime, on this impact, we still have the NVIDIA signs from April up on our place right now. If you want to talk about like the distribution within downtown. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into downtown. Like, this isn't even just a one thing going on with our small business community or anything else. You know, like how many people had issues getting here because of the construction that was going on that kind of messed up things going on with during the World Cup. During the World Cup, exactly, and all the other stuff going on. Yeah, let alone if you're looking at the developments that are coming in and the parking considerations coming in. Like, I know this board passed it with the Bank of Italy getting parking permits on this. They tried to pass that on the day because they didn't build parking into this because of the way things are going right now. Now that building went over, essentially went into foreclosure. So there's effects on, there's a major ripple effect that goes along with that. You know, and I can completely understand cities needs to generate revenue. I'm realistic about this, prevent cuts. But what I'm less sympathetic about this right now is the cuts are going to come from somewhere. What is being taken away from, or what is being proposed to save city jobs, is literally going to come on the backs of small businesses and the community that's here. You know, what I need right now, my trust level, you know, if you know where I've been right now, it's pretty low at the moment with how this went down. Because I need a demonstration that the city is actually committed to our small business community. And is actually committed to working with us for the vibrancy of downtown and partnership. And not simply being told what to do and then deal, as far as I'm concerned, with no small business, no community, there is no vibrancy downtown. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kyle. I was also born and raised in San Jose. I'm going to talk a bit about my mother, who, she was also born and raised in San Jose. She's 65 years old. She worked with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 332, for over 20 years. And she is largely physically disabled because she worked as an electrician for 20 years. She worked in construction for years. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to echo what some other people have said regarding how a lot of these rate increases seem to be centered around proximity to a parking garage. And I want to highlight how that's not a viable solution for a lot of people. My mom really likes to watch me climb at the local gym, so my friends are here that also climb there. And the gym that I climb at is very close to a parking garage. However, that distance between the parking garage and the gym is still 2 blocks more than it is from a parking meter to the gym, which might be directly out front. That 2-block distance, because my mom is disabled, for some people that might be a 5 or 10 block. For my mom, that might be 15 or 20. And the amount of energy and pain that she would experience just to make that walk is the difference between whether she would come to see me climb or not. I had those. Also, just as some other people have mentioned, the concerns with safety and sanitation in those garages. I am not going to ask my 65-year-old disabled mother to park in a garage that I know is going to smell like human urine and is likely not going to be safe for her, especially when, as someone here also mentioned, that a lot of those garages, the elevators do not work. So if she's going to have to park on a second floor on that parking garage, that's also adding multiple flights of stairs to her walk to come just to see her son being physically active in a way that she misses being herself. Anything else? She gave her body for the infrastructure for the city. And it would be difficult for her to come see me doing something like that if this was implemented.
Hi, good morning. My name is Juan Carlos Aguirre. I am a downtown resident and I also work in downtown. However, I want to talk about a hidden vulnerable community that I'm also part of that's not being in the data here. So I belong to the recovery community and I want to tell you a little bit of a story that happened recently in the past few years. We were hosting a meeting in near Campbell and our meeting location was only having about like 4 attendees at the time. And then we decided to move our meeting location to downtown because it's central to public transportation and also the benefits of no parking or no parking fees after 6 p.m. and then also the 90-minute free parking. When we did that, we were able to move our meeting location to 3rd in Santa Clara, and we saw our meeting attendance increase by 400%. And with that, after our meeting every single week, we choose a different location in downtown to go patronize. We go get burritos or pizza or ice cream, and that adds vibrancy and money to local businesses. The proposal now would potentially force our meetings in our community who are mostly straight out of prison or transitioning from rehab to go to a different location, right? And so not only will this affect like what all the people have already said earlier today, but there's a lot of vulnerable communities that are not reflected in here that I also want to just make sure that is reflected in this in the end of this.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm a District 3 resident. I visit downtown a lot. I drive here and work. I also bike. And I would just ask that you lean into some of the requests to be creative about the solution. You know, are there ways with technology or different pricing models that we can achieve the same outcome? Right now, all the proposals are basically fixed price, but can you look at the data and see are there low demand times where the price can be lowered? And on the flip side, are there high demand prices where people are all fighting for the same spaces where, you know, the prices can be higher at that point? So low demand, low price, high demand, higher price. And, you know, I've heard a lot today and in the past about, you know, folks having to come downtown and having to drive their cars. Part of that is we built a lot of car infrastructure, and part of that is haven't done a good job building up alternative infrastructures. I heard mention earlier of you know, investing in public transit and VTA. The monthly pass for VTA is $90. The low price pass for parking is $50, said on the slide, and the regular price is $100. Are there ways that we can work the parking DOT, Downtown Association, VTA? There's a way to take some of the parking revenue and invest that back in helping people buy transit passes for lower than what it is, so that people have the option and they don't feel like they have to drive downtown because there's no other options. We also have 3,600 spaces in parking garages that offer 2 hours free. In comparison, there's only 72 spots in the entire downtown to park a bike in a way where it doesn't get stolen. And so for a lot of folks, you know, they might want to bike instead of driving, but they don't have that option. It's hard to make sure your bike doesn't get stolen. So if we invested more in those secure biking facilities, secure parking facilities for bikes, that give people more flexibility to make different choices. So please consider some more creativity and different things beyond just flat. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexa and I'm a local performer. I fail to see how this plan is going to, one, benefit the people who are actually coming to support living artists and the living artists themselves. I believe that more fringe artists in San Jose, they should be able to make the art that they want to make, not just the art that the city would approve of. And I think in order to actually allow artists to, you know, just make the art they want to make, there needs to be just less nickeling and diming of all this stuff that they just have no control over. People have been priced out of San Jose. I know many, artists who I got attached to live here, but they just couldn't afford to live here anymore. And the art scene has suffered because of it. I'm friends with a lot of the people who work at these bars that have raised their concern today. And I'd like to add some points that my colleague wanted me to say. With this plan, if this plan does go through, this means that customers are going to spend less money downtown because it's going to affect them as well. And, you know, they're just not going to want to do it as much. And he'd also like me to state that closing down the roads for raves, it's not going to make enough money in the long run. And again, that's also the kind of theme that, you know, it's not necessarily what San Jose wants. I think we need to be able to provide, you know, this sort of freedom. And in order to do that, we need to stop just not prioritizing big tech, first of all, and having them be accountable for the money they make, and, you know, stop letting artists pay for it. And we need to stop giving tax breaks to giant corporations who just stagnate downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, one last one. Maybe not last.
Hello, my name is Tori Ray. My wife and I own Western Gym right here on 3rd Street. First, I'd just like to say it's great to see everyone that came out to oppose this. It's going to affect a lot of people negatively. Our gym has fixed customers that come for 1 hour for personal training sessions, and the 60-minute parking would demolish all those people that come. It would increase parking rates for all of pretty much anyone that comes to our gym. So, and then the 6 to 9 affects elderly people and women that don't want to walk to the parking. So many people here address the concerns that we have. I just want to lay them on the table and say, I hope you reconsider this proposal.
One more. Good afternoon, sir. Good morning, Brian Kurtz, with the San Jose Downtown Association. Appreciate everyone's remarks today, and staff and Brains Board for listening to all of these. I will share and add that we had a forum online and received some additional comments, not only from businesses, but from at least 2 churches and downtown residents here as well. I do appreciate the alternative proposal that's at hand today. I'm excited to hear what the parking board has to say. It's certainly not perfect. One of the things I do want to highlight, though, is these proposals still are approaching the symptoms. They're not approaching the root crux of the problem. And that is the general fund pooling money from the parking enterprise fund to support general operations of the city. I understand, I think we all understand the needs of various things that are in place at the city. And I do appreciate the additional data that was shown up here. I think that we saw the city is anticipating a deficit for the next 2 fiscal years. However, the proposal at hand seemed to include drawing the $1.2 million from the parking fund for at least a 5-year period. So once the city general fund is in a surplus, why are we continuing to draw additional funds from the parking enterprise? And I understand that you may not be able to answer those questions today, but I think these are important things for us to highlight. Investing in economic development, investing in small businesses, investing in quality of life, and certainly investing in operations of the garages, improvements in safety, security, lighting, signage, things that are going to make the use of our assets better for visitors, for employees, for residents in downtown are critical things to the future of downtown. Those are not possible if we continue pulling money from the parking fund to the general fund to support bottom line operations. I will highlight one additional item that engagement continues beyond today. There's certainly a wonderful opportunity for dialogue with members and staff. Staff will be coming to the San Jose Downtown Association full board meeting next Thursday, the 13th at 8:30 for an additional presentation. My hope is that it incorporates additional updates and anything that comes out of this parking board meeting. Then I would imagine that there will be additional conversations in the public and convenience of the public between now and when this goes. Also, once again, thank you all for the time today. Thank you all for your voice and we'll leave these with you as well.
Thank you. Are there any more? Oh, now, as they say.
Thank you so much for letting me speak up. My name is Winnie. I didn't have a chance to sign up. I actually because of trip, I'm working, so I thought that was kind of funny. But I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I have sympathy and empathy for the fact that COVID made an impact, and I understand that. But the small and this is, and I'm really just reiterating what several people have already said. But the businesses that are going to be most impacted are the businesses, the same businesses that have already been impacted by COVID, which I don't have. There is, however, one company that is living right here in downtown San Jose that has benefited from COVID. And again, reiterating what other people have said, like really looking at those businesses specifically to try to narrow the deficit, I think would be a better run. I think that, trying to do this one in, one out type of replacement for the money, which as someone already mentioned, is not even going to close the budget or at least, by a very, very small percentage, just doesn't really make any sense. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is I understand it was a glitch that the meters were showing, but if I myself today standing here, I have been a patron of, a resident of, and an employee at a local business in downtown San Jose for the last 20 years. I myself represent at least like 200 people, gym members, employees, etc. And I'm pretty sure each one of these people sitting here today are exactly the same. So don't let the number of people who are sitting here be the direct one-to-one ratio of people that are really here in essence and spirit. And as someone said, because of the time of the meeting or whatever the reasons are not able to be here, we really represent, 10, 100, even, 1,000 times the people that weren't able to make it today. So I really hope you hear what we have to say, and thank you for giving us the platform.
Thank you, everyone. Anyone else to speak? I guess that allows me to close the public hearing and turn it over to the board. I'd like to just say a couple of words before having my colleagues speak. First off, it's a complicated issue, one I've been working on for 6 years. I want to compliment the staff. They have a tough job. They're in the middle of this machine. They're not at the top of it, so they're trying to navigate their way through. My big comment on this topic is most of you may not be aware, this is an enterprise. It's called 533. It operates separate from the general fund. It has revenue, it has expenses, it has net income, it has an operating budget and a capital budget. I've been busy all summer, so I only started working on this last Wednesday. And I sent some information to the budget director and I said, could you give me the figures for the last 20 years for revenue, expenditures, operating, etc. He sent me to the website. I think we need those numbers. My number one takeaway on this whole thing is this is a little small business. And unless we look at it as a small business, we're not really able to do a good job of thinking about what we should be spending money on, what we should be gathering revenue from, and the like. And just to give you so many pages here, we have a lot of levers we can pull. We have just in the garages, we have regular parking, monthly parking, reserve parking, global parking, monthly discounts, convention center, hotels pay money, special events, and RV and EVs. For instance, those are just all levers that we should be looking at to say what's the right place to be, when were they last raised, and things like that. And so to understand that this is a little business that's operating in the Department of Transportation, which is a huge organization that does so many other things besides this, gives you a flavor of what's going on.
The other big statistic that I have for you is, these are numbers from fiscal year 1920 that I had from my time earlier. The off-street parking revenue is about $12 million and the meter revenue is $3 million. So the focus on just the meters kind of surprised me. I did not know about this until the Thursday before the June 23rd of June meeting. I was out of the country on the 23rd. So I'm just getting up to speed on all this. So I'd like to turn it all over to my colleagues. I don't know who would like to speak first. Robert, would you like to speak first since you're all the way down there and you haven't said it yet? Thank you.
Thank you. First, I really appreciate you all coming out. All work, parking. You know, I'm a huge advocate for investing in downtown. And as a CEO, I completely appreciate, needing to turn to my staff and say, we need more revenue. And so, this directive that comes down, so fund, the department we're looking at this. It's hard to come away not seeing this as just a tax on the working class. And to have, I think of, from a downtown event standpoint, on one hand, I have patrons who are coming down, coming into garages that we want to be safe and secure and functional. Most concerts are beyond 90 minutes. So 90-minute, free parking doesn't really impact from a performing arts standpoint. But where I really see the struggle is from my employees. Every event that comes through on every theater, you think of the ushers, the stagehands, they're not making much more than the minimum wage as it is. And adding $2, to the fee is going to be lowering their check, which means ultimately they're going to be coming to the employers. For the employers, that we're going to have to pass this on to ticket prices, ticket prices. And so when it gets back to kind of looking at, does this downtown, I just question that. I think in the end, the city budget, is looking for a 10x solution. And, this is the dip, and so if you're looking at slivers of how to just, incrementally increase revenue, you've got two options here. But how do we do it in a way that is not detrimental to the people that, we're trying to have really build and run this city? And I love the suggestions that came out, whether, looking at, love the corporate sponsorship of parking, your parking has been sponsored by NVIDIA. We know we do a lot for these large companies, and how can we just look at not really penalizing people that we're looking to the most? So those are just my additional.
There? Yep. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Being in downtown, but not necessarily in downtown, because we are, as typically stated, it's kind of its own kind of separate entity there. Sometimes, we aren't necessarily looking at these challenges that are faced by the city. But this is one that definitely does hit home, because it's one that I deal with on a regular basis. I understand the challenges that folks here are dealing with public transportation. My concern that as I'm looking at this, of course, is the impact that it is having, of course, on the surrounding community. If you're having these increases in rates, how will that make actually the challenge of parking within my own campus more appealing? Because as norm, our rates are a little bit more than what cities has been norm. So, I definitely will continue to work with you guys to see that final point of equilibrium. And also something that, they're also looking to partner in times. So this may become a bit more of a challenging for us for some of the things that campus is looking for moving forward.
I'd like to thank staff for the work on it. I do realize the challenge that it was put together on short notice, especially with the budgetary constraints. But my issue with parking increases is that this is not everyone. You know, it's something if you're investing in new infrastructure like you did with the smart meters or making the experience better for us, but for the small businesses that have to use the meters, this is just yet another straw to break our back. There's not a single business in my community in Japantown that is doing remarkably well this year. Everyone's still feeling the effects of COVID. And I think that probably goes for the majority of businesses in downtown. Everyone's taking it by. And no one's getting rich off of these endeavors. To have a small business in downtown or around the core of San Jose takes part, and it's something that you do because you love being here, you love contributing to the economic engine, seeing your neighbors and friends and family. It is not something you get rich off of. And I do think that something like this is just another burden that creates a barrier for people to enjoy our space. So my suggestion, and I appreciate what Jordan said about the demand rate increases, but I would like to say that we turned that down a couple years ago because we felt it was going to be too confusing for residents and businesses, especially our elderly community. To explain that whatever you pay for a meter could be anywhere from $2 to $10 depending on the day of time. So we did reject that a couple years ago. But I would like to look at event rate increases and changing some of the schedule for the rates with the parking garages as opposed to any changes in time or the amount paid at meters.
Okay, I think I already said pretty much all I was going to say, other than just to share a tip, maybe a question for the staff also. On the original program, there was 1.2 million in new revenue, and there was $500,000 in lost revenue. From 150,000, it went to the ice rink, and then the 350,000, which I don't disagree with, down at the convention center. So the net is only 700,000. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Increase. Those were, you might want to answer it, so get it on record.
I don't know. Yeah.
Plus. The cost plus. But the cost of providing free parking in the convention center
It's 350.
and it's compared to the year prior, reduced revenue by $350,000.
Correct.
So you're adding 1.2, but you reduce revenue by $350,000 from your baseline, making the total be over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm subtracting, you're adding.
Oh.
I still don't understand.
Yeah, this is John Bristow, Director. So what Elias is showing is that there already is a proposed, this is more helpful. The addition of the convention center garage to 90 minute free will reduce the amount coming into the parking fund by roughly 350,000. The 1.2 million that's being taken out of general fund is already going to happen no matter what we do. We do nothing. That's another decrease from 1.2. But a proposal that was originally put out was to recover that with fee increase. So if there is no fee increase, the parking fund is reduced by 1.2 million plus 350,000 plus whatever.
Right. Couple more questions.
So I hope that's more.
A little bit. So Pam Foley asked Jim Shannon, what's happening? Is the budget still balanced? And Jim Shannon's response was, yes, we already took the money. So the fund is already down $1.2 million. The total value of the fund in all areas is $20 million. Anybody want to take a guess?
You know, I think that's one of the things that when people do that sort of
information correctly, because I think you asked the budget director, it's all there for public to see on the budget website, but to make it easier, we'll bring those back. And I think there's questions with some of the folks, so we wrote all those down.
When we met on March 4th, the modified budget 25-26 total source of revenues was $24 million. So the reduction assuming that's in the ballpark, so it's now 1.2 million less. And that money is already out the door. And the question is how to backfill that in order to make the fund full again, if you will. The second question is, in the original proposal, 6 to 9 increase in meters, there were going to be parking control officers working from 6 to 9 p.m. And it's always been explained to me that those fines do not go parking enterprise fund. They go to the general fund directly. And I'm wondering if there was any analysis done on how much money gross and net after paying for the parking control officers was going directly into the general fund from that.
Yes, there was. It's a half FTE, so full-time officer. It's just a part-time officer. We have to cover the cost of that officer. So the citations they write will cover those costs, and we estimated a fair minimum of an increase of around, I think, 75,000 in additional citations. So
full 12 months.
Yes.
So as I kind of hinted at, I think that if I don't know, do we make a motion or anything here, or you're going to just share our comments back with the council? My sense is, I've started businesses, I've closed businesses, I've paid off the debt from those, I've opened other businesses. This is a business. And I think we need to look at it as business. The bulk of the money in this enterprise fund, this little business, is the garages and not the meters. And I think that, as I said, there's a whole bunch of levers we can pull in terms of what revenue we should get. And I think an exercise, I was suggesting 6 months. So I'm going to invest my time in a 6-month exercise to try to look at this business and rationalize it. And so I'm willing to do that as a civic duty. I don't get paid. And I think that's really where we need to go with this. And on the expense side, I think that's worth looking at also. Most people don't know there are 2 garages that we maintain that are not in the downtown, that are paid for out of this enterprise fund, one in Willow Glen and one in
Surface lot. Surface lot.
Surface lot. Sorry, I said the wrong word. And I think that's something that might be worth having a look at. There's a whole bunch of different levers here that we can pull. In terms of some of the comments that people have made here today, I listened at many a meeting about the topic of putting cameras in the garage. And I believe the staff can correct me, this is in the hands of the Department of Public Works for many years, and it doesn't seem to go forward. If there's one thing that we would invest in, it would be very useful, would be, as people said, lighting and cameras in the garage. And we have a lot of members. Our business is open 24 hours a day. Our members have had significant incidents in the garage, and I won't be more specific than that. And so the lighting is not that great. On a happy note, the city did invest $4.5 million and fixed 9 elevators. So the elevators are new now. It's a challenge because the folks that come from time to time and decide to start a fire in the elevator or something, it's troublesome. I don't know what else to say other than that, but I think my overriding comment is this is a business and we should be thinking of it as a business. And it's really kind of a big side business for the Department of Transportation, whose total budget is $250 million. I don't know. It's a lot. I don't know what the total number is. And this is a little $4 million thing off to the side. And most of that, 3 million of that 4 is the garages and not the meters. So, I'll just leave it at that. And maybe the staff would like to comment, or maybe another member of my board here would like to comment. And somehow I seem to be in the house.
Just one thing that I wanted to add as far as we're looking at kind of solutions and approaches is, if it's possible to kind of keep in mind some sort of comprehensive approach, if we have to go with, a option 3, is there something that if we're going to increase, a rate, really looking at, who we're passing this on to. I don't think all are equitable. And can we tie that in with things? You mentioned the low, there's a low income threshold for like $50 a month garage parking. Can we look at increasing that to maybe $30 a month? Or incentives for employers who are helping to fund, employee parking. A concept of like maybe a downtown employee, a sticker on the car that, could come at a low monthly fee where they could park meters. So I think if we're going to be looking at taking something, is there the possibility to also return something back to the community?
So I'd like to address the question Taco had earlier about kind of what went into and what was considered when we were proposing this alternate or new plan. Lots of different things. I think Dave indicated we did do the levers and kind of look at what are all the things, what are all the opportunities, where could we make changes, and then what would those changes, how would they impact kind of the bottom line and the number we're reaching for, which is the 1.2 plus the 350, so the 1.5 million and change. We looked at Sunday parking. Nobody attacked. We're not doing that. We looked at removing the 90 minutes free in the garages. We looked at a variety of other kind of incremental increases. Depending on when those happen, they vary in revenue generation, and then you kind of overlap a time increase and a rate increase. It kind of makes it a little more challenging and puts a balance at the front or a balance at the back. We absolutely can adjust the order of all of these items. The event rate is at the end in year 5 because it doesn't, we have a TBD because we're still doing an analysis on that, but early analysis says it's not a huge number to get us to really move the needle. It's, maybe a couple $100,000. So the bigger needles are the movers of these items. We tried to stretch it out across the 5 years, so there wasn't a significant hit all up front. What this doesn't show, and to Dave's comments earlier about how we're running the parking fund, it does capital and maintenance for all of the garages, all of the service lots, all of the meters. We have operating costs related to those, staffing costs, plus maintenance and capital. Mentioned garages, so the elevators in the garages, that was a large project. We're looking in the near future of a huge capital outlay for a potential second elevator in the second San Carlos garage, because that only has one, and if that goes down, it's really problematic. That's a huge lift that these revenues, meters and garages, have to pay for. The meters, the smart meters we have, we need to start considering a refresh of those meters and that capital outlay, replacing all those meters. Lots of things come into play, and all of these revenues have to go to cover those costs. We do have, the service lots you mentioned that do have free parking. Again, not a huge lever, we can absolutely look at those, but it doesn't bring in a ton of income to move people. These are the items that.
But I just didn't understand why you would take that first, since the city garages are different than the other event parking around the area. So that's the easiest, low, like minimal impact lift.
Correct, it's the easiest, but it doesn't get us very far. The other thing with, event parking, especially the center garage, we need to balance event parking with non-event parking. So for instance, at our shop stand, we do flat rate $10, a flat rate $10, but there are a lot of people that come to San Pedro that don't necessarily go to the shark stand. So they're coming down to go to dinner. If we increase the event rate on that day, those patrons coming to dinner for just drinks and not going to gain bear the price of the increase as well. So we tried to kind of balance and not make it not gouge, so we can have those sides becoming kind of paying less than expected, or not going to bet. So it can be moved up. We can certainly look at that. I don't think that that's an issue for us to play with moving around the timeline.
Want to use the mic?
So just one point on what you said, I think we may have a different kind of conversation if we're talking about, the money raised from parking going back into the investment in parking. The elevator is a big expense keeping us, safe, but I think it's the notion that we're increasing these fees and it's being, just pulled out into something else. As you're also just looking at kind of reordering, did you consider and run into kind of the numbers if, what if you extended the meter hour just back to 7 o'clock? That way we're still not getting into performances. People aren't having to come back out and feed the meter. Working late, aren't necessarily having to come back late, but some sort of splitting the difference of getting there. And then while we're just looking at the numbers, you've got non-event days at the convention center. I know sitting on the Team San Jose board, we're always trying to fill these event days. So how many non-event days are we really looking at? And is that, is that an area that we explore?
Non-event days at the convention center is between 100 and 150 annually. We did not look at incremental increases to the hour extension, the hour block. We can certainly go back and look to see what it might be for just a 2-hour increase or a 1 hour increase. I just want to make a point. The parking meters are the prime position for parking, right? They're right in front of the businesses. They're right there for drop off, pickup, delivery, DoorDash, etc. They're for short-term parking. They're limited to 2 hours. Technically, you're not supposed to go out and feed your meter because you're in violation of the time limit. So the intent is longer stays should be housed in the garage and not on the street. We want turnover for customers. We want turnover for businesses as well. So there's always some kind of easy access to them. That's why we are trying to address and flip that parking on the street should be more expensive than parking in the garage, because we really want people to go to the garage for those long-term stays. Having available parking in front of businesses and on the curb also helps with things like other illegal parking that tends to happen. Parking in red curbs, parking, double parking and things like that. When there is a space and someone needs to run in and run out, they're going to double park. We want spaces to be there, one on a block. So somebody that's doing a quick drop off pickup or just running in, running out has the ability to actually park. And it will decrease other forms of parking when there's space available.
I remember the other thing I was thinking. When I first heard about this, I thought to myself, $1.2 million, who's paying that? It's the patrons who come to the businesses downtown. Assuming those patrons actually spend money in the business when they're there, they generate sales tax. So we're taking $1.2 million out of our patrons' bank account, wallet, and that's going to have the tendency to have them spend less money, come less often, whatever it might be, and that's going to reduce sales tax revenue in the city of San Jose. So I always wondered if anybody thought about that. I looked it up. San Jose, I believe the number, or chat GPT, 118 million is the budget number for sales tax revenue for the city. And this is constitutes 1% of that. And I'm wondering if anybody thought, well, on a net basis, the city isn't even getting $1.2 million. On a happy note, there's a thing up there and you get free parking under this building for today before you leave. So you should try that out. And another thought, now I can't remember it because I'm old.
Heather, I just wanted to point to you about the running in and running out parking. Just while I have the microphone, I know on in Suffolk District on South First, there used to be these two, I don't know if it was a 15-minute or 30-minute spot. People could run in, they would pick up something from Original Joe's, Jackie's Place, Nirvana Soul. Those were replaced and put in these bike corrals that are never used. So sorry to the bicycle enthusiasts, but that was really missed in that neighborhood.
It's complicated. Are there any other comments from the staff or my fellow members here? I think maybe it's not yet noon and we don't go past noon. So is it appropriate for you guys to make some last comments, or what happens now, I guess, would be the last comment.
Thank you, John Russo again. And I think what we hear at all of the public meetings go into what we're trying to do to recommend back to the city council what would be some of these different ideas, options, and alternatives. So we presented a couple today. There was other ideas that came out. So take some of that back and see if there's even more level of question. Like the chairman of the board did say, so it's a great idea. It is important to understand, and thank you again for mentioning this is an enterprise business with operating and capital needs, and the only way we fund those operating capital needs is budget. So increased security, increased cameras, increased all.
Understood. And our costs go up, as do others, and maybe people's rate for parking should go up if they're costs go up. Is this correct though? I was under the impression this was a one-time, $1.2 million one-time thing. So our friends in the city manager's office have decided that we're going to just take $1.2 million from the parking fund in perpetuity. And they used to do it from time to time, but not every year. But this is now the standard procedure for the city manager's office.
With this particular action, yes, that's our understanding until the council changes that. That's what we have.
So the budget document actually said this is not just a one-time thing. It's
till they change.
That was a news item. Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It is important to provide that input to us because as you see, we've already tried to make some adjustments during more of it. I think the council wants to know all those things too. So I appreciate the parking board actually conducting this meeting and everybody coming out and doing that. It is very helpful for us and the council to understand what's those important levers and policy decisions that they can make within this. We're not solving the entire city's budget issues with this. This is just one of many things that went into solve that budget.
Right.
This may be one that is more directly impactful and visible, but there's a whole bunch of other things that went into that budget. So appreciate everybody coming in.
If anybody'd like to join the parking board, we'd love to have you. We have 3 slots. Some of them are at large. It could be anyone. There's a procedure, you have to go through the processes to be on a city commission, which means that you have to fill out the all 700. I can walk you through it. That scares everybody off, but it's not that big a deal, really. But we really need some more people to help us out with this exercise. Thank you all for coming, and this meeting is concluded.
Adjourned.